We're going to call the recommending meeting to order. Can we close this door and have our guests come in another door?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, hey, man, Mary always said I don't look as good as you as it's proved today.
We're going to move to the first line item of business. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. And so that everyone knows, each bill moved out of committee today will be eligible for adoption at the City Council meeting on December 16th, 2015. Bill number 2015-95, this is an abeyance item for possible action, amends the Title VI of the Las Vegas Municipal Code to establish a business license fee for transportation network companies and to make transportation network company business licenses eligible for multi-jurisdictional business licensing. This is proposed by our Director of Planning, Mr. Tom Perigo. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Tom Perigo, Planning Director. This bill really does two things. One, it adds transportation network companies to the list of businesses that are appropriate and can be licensed under multi-jurisdictional business licensing. And two, it adds transportation network companies to general license category with the semi-annual fee of $50 per active driver. So that'd be a 2 times a year, $50 fee per active driver. I'll turn over to Ms. Ellison to do more detail on the bill.
And before Ms. Ellison, before you begin, does this have to do with Uber and Lyft?
Correct.
Okay.
For the record, Karen Duddleton, Deputy Director of Planning. At the last recommending committee, this item was held so that we could sit down and talk with one of the applicants that spoke before you. That company was Lyft. Our bill and our proposal is very simple. Under the state assembly bills that created network transportation companies, it's very clear that local jurisdictions may license these businesses. We may not regulate them, and we may do it in the same manner that we regulate or that we license other businesses. So we have proposed a flat fee license, which is simple to calculate. It is based upon the company and the number of their active drivers. And that was one of the concessions we made to those companies where over their concern that they have a lot of drivers sign up and never take a ride, so that actually they would only be charged based on those drivers that were active within the city of Las Vegas. I did meet with Lyft. They made a proposal to move to a gross fee-based license, which is what they are on temporarily right now, because that was the only category that we had to allow a temporary license at this point in time. We reviewed their percentages. They also recommended in their proposal to only charge license fees on those rides that terminate in the city of Las Vegas. From a licensing perspective, we do not see a difference. Our codes are very clear. If you are doing business within the city, you are subject to a business license. So picking a passenger up, driving through, or dropping off a passenger will all be considered business to us. Their proposal, from our review of it, would be about a tenth of the revenue that's proposed in the current regulation. Under the state bills, the local governments need license for revenue purposes. So we've tried to do that as a simple manner as possible. I know that company may want to speak with you, but at this point in time, we're recommending the bill that is before you for consideration.
And just as a recap, the bill that's before us, if you will, just recap it for those that haven't had an opportunity to read it.
What it does is creates a general business license category. The same type of business license can be applied to other service-type businesses. Under state law, we have 2 types of general business licenses. One is based on gross sales. Those are for sales-type companies, so product sales. Then we have flat fee licenses. All of our other service, transportation type businesses are under the flat fee category. This fee is set exactly the same as those other types of transportation categories.
And we have questions from council.
So, again, tell me where you came up with the semi-annual $50. Compare that to a taxi cab.
Currently in the city of Las Vegas, we do not license taxi cabs. There is a state law that requires that all revenue derived from local governments for taxi cabs be returned to the taxi cab authority. So my research shows, and Val may be able to help a little bit here, who was very helpful in trying to define at some point in time, the city stopped collecting fees because they were basically an agency that collected fees and remitted them back to the taxi cab authority.
So a cab company doing business in the city of Las Vegas doesn't have a business license?
They are not located here, they do not. They may have a license for their administrative office, but not based on the actual taxi cabs. Because under state law, there's a specific provision that fees collected for taxi cabs must be remitted back to the state.
Okay. But under the state law for these transportation companies that we're talking about, we can issue a business license?
Correct. The legislation was very clear that they are subject to local licensing. AB 176 does not prohibit a local government from requiring the transportation network company or driver to obtain a local business license or to pay any business license fee that is in the same manner that is generally applicable to any other business that operates within the local government's jurisdiction. And that's what we're proposing in the bill.
So the way you're looking at it is a Uber driver, you're considering them an individual business. Is that?
We are not. We are licensing the network transportation company, and their fee is based on the number of active drivers they have operating within the city of Las Vegas.
So who would actually pay the license?
The company, the network transportation, we would not be requiring the driver. If you require those as independent contractors, they would have to get a $200 license from the state and then go an additional license from the city.
Okay,
Which
so-
is much greater cost to the drivers than what we were proposing.
So if there's 100 drivers, so let's say Uber, so you would send the Uber corporation
A bill,
a
correct.
bill, and then they would decide if they're gonna pay it or pass it on to the drivers, they would have to figure that part out.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
What I believe you might be referring to is what county recently passed an ordinance to license the individual drivers as independent businesses. That would necessitate them having to get a state business license at $200 plus a business license through us. With these drivers, we have one company that has told us that they are authorized at the state right now for up to 1,700 drivers. Other companies are at least, we know one that's at least double that, and we know that the state has been talking with at least 7 companies with more on the way. So we could be talking about 10,000 additional licensees. The issue with that is tracking them, the enforcement staff that you would have to create to increase by 20% the number of currently licenses.
So we don't actually touch the drivers. Okay, so we rely on Uber to tell us how many active drivers they have,
Correct.
and we just kind of have to trust them to a certain.
We would audit.
Very
We
well.
have the authority to go audit.
What do you consider an active driver?
We consider an active driver someone that has actually taken a passenger on a ride within the city within the last 30 days.
Okay, so where is Uber located that you would send them to?
Uber,
They have an office here in Las Vegas?
Uber has told us they have an office here in Las Vegas. They already have we already have their contact information, and the state maintains all of the contact information, as well as all of the information on the drivers as well. So we'll be able to work with them.
All right, all right, so Okay, I thought we were licensing individual drivers. We're just finding out how many drivers there are and send Uber an annual or semi-annual bill, and then you pay that. That's their way of doing business in the city. Okay.
We're just counting, it's similar to how we would count limousines or how we would count doctors in the doctor's office or something like that. It's the same principle as all of the other types of general licenses where they're required to be registered with the state. This one is set up very, very similar at the local level.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Dodd.
So I have a question about that. The whole concept of the drivers, for example, is important to me. So Uber, Lyft, and anybody else that gets in this business, there could be dozens. In the end, they will pay us, and they certainly intend to pay us today what they feel they owe us. There will be a disconnect there as to what they feel they owe us versus what we feel. There always will be tension because we don't know who their drivers are in this bill. We only know a list, a number, a gross number. We have no name. And I object to that. And I'll tell you why. This goes back to experience, being a great teacher. And I know that, I hope people can hear us in here, but anyway, I remember the 60s quite well and the violence in the taxi cab industry. And I wasn't in the legislature then, certainly, but what people did was act to restore order out of chaos and require licensing and so on and so forth. Always, after 45 years, subject to criticism for being a protective agency, the governing body, or whatever. But the point is, we knew who each and every driver was. So that's the rub. And the reason is because some of them were bad actors. And so there's a background check done. Now, I've heard people tell me from the lobbyists from these organizations that they do a real thorough background check, but we still don't know their names. And so we can't even double check them in our scope, our access to the basic felony and misdemeanor information here in our valley. So I really feel nervous about that. That's what happens when you don't have experience in the legislature. They drank the Kool-Aid without thinking about what happened in the past because they're all new. And if you think back and you know, some of you are almost, nobody's as old as I am in here, but you know, the gist of it is you forget why you were regulating these transportation companies in the first place. Now, I think they need to have some skin in the game, those drivers. I really do. A minor amount. I mean, $50, $100 a year. $100 a year is what a person with a home office business pays. An insurance agent who sits in his house and goes out. Maybe he goes out one day a week, maybe an hour a week, maybe 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week. It's up to him, but he pays that same fee. And I don't see why. That's our minimum fee, I think.
$110.
Yeah, okay.
$10.
So that's our home office permit arrangement. There are tens of thousands of people in the city licensed that way. And it seems to me to be convenient enough for us to know and to be able to say to the public, you're hanging a license, we know a little bit about you. We don't know everything, we can't ever know, but we know something. So I spoke up louder so that others can hear me because I want them to address those thoughts that are in my mind if they are here to testify on behalf of the bill as written. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. If there's anyone here from the public wishing to speak on this item, please come forward and state your name for the record. And we have a location here to my immediate left for anyone wishing to speak on this item.
Thank you.
You can come front and center.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, council members. My name is Timothy Burr. I was here a couple of weeks ago. The last time this item was on the agenda. I handle public policy for Lyft here in Nevada.
And I'm Kelly Kay. I'm the Vice President of Business Operations at Lyft.
Last time we were here before the holidays, we had respectfully requested this issue, this item to be held as we need to take time. We've been working with staff on finding a way forward in this area, and we continue that work since that last meeting and since the last request to hold this item. I believe we had meetings with also submitted additional comments since the last hearing. And so just wanted to let you know, we have been continuing to work on this item. Lyft is still seeking this item to be held at this time. We feel that we are having productive conversations with staff and would like those conversations to continue so we can find a way forward. And with that,
The main thing is we'd like to have this held again so we can continue conversations, work for the final resolution.
So what is it that you still need to work out?
So we did submit a letter from our council. I think our primary concern is that this, as drafted, doesn't meet the requirements of AB 176. And I'm not a lawyer in Nevada, so I don't really want to go into the legal requirements. But, you know, our fear is that though this is a generally applicable license under AB 176, the fee itself is not generally applicable. So it is not a flat fee, it's actually a fee per driver, which means it does vary. So what we would like to propose is that we stick with the actual revenue-based license fee that we're currently operating under, rather than going down the path of the fee that's based upon the number of active drivers.
And what is it currently?
We're currently a revenue-based license fee.
Can you explain that? How does that work?
So it's a fee based upon the actual economic activity taking place within the city of Las Vegas. So rather than just based upon the number of drivers that are on the road throughout all of Clark County and unincorporated Clark County as well, this fee would be based upon activity that takes place within the city of Las Vegas, based upon our revenue as well as our drivers' revenue. So basically, the city would be able to obtain a portion of the income that we have and the income that the drivers have. I think the fee is 0.0056% or something like that, which is a generally applicable fee in your existing ordinances, which I do think complies with AB 176.
So, why do you object to the individual driver license? It seems like that would be a lot easier to manage, and you get a bill for the number of drivers. I mean, I don't know which is more or less, but why the big objection to individual driver license? And I mean, that's all we're talking about here. State law is pretty clear, right, that we cannot regulate the industry. We can just issue business license. So the rest of the stuff we can't even get into. So I'm just are you really that against an individual license fee, and why are you against it?
And I think it's a nuance of the transportation network company industry as a whole. So our drivers are mostly part-time drivers or occasional drivers. They maybe drive once or twice, or they may drive less than 10 hours in a week. So it's not the same as a taxi cab driver, where you would actually try and license them on a per driver or per vehicle basis, and it would make sense because they're driving 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our drivers are driving part-time to earn extra money, for instance. So if we're paying a fee based upon these drivers, it doesn't really reflect the activity that's necessarily taking place within the city of Las Vegas, and it could actually impede us from having a number of drivers that we want to have in our system. So a lot of drivers, if they're full-time drivers, paying $50 or $100 a year is not that big of a deal. But when our drivers are only driving 10 hours a week, that's a big economic impact to our business. And then passing it on to a driver isn't always something that's feasible if they're going to drive part-time. So we would like to have a fee that actually reflects the activity taking place within the city of Las Vegas.
So are you that against the gross, the way we're doing it now? Is that a big problem to keep it the way it is?
Under the legislation that was passed, it restricts local governments to acquire business license for the sole purpose of revenue collection. And it says the local governments cannot impose any other requirements on a company or driver that are not of general applicability to persons who operate motor vehicles within the jurisdiction. So what we've done is set this up similar to any other type of delivery business. So the other delivery businesses, whether it's furniture or pizzas that you're just delivering in the evening or whatever, are based on a per vehicle basis. It's exactly the same as we've done here, whether they're part-time or full-time.
Okay, so we don't have another transportation type of business that would pay a gross, what they're talking about?
No.
We don't.
we don't.
They're all what?
They're
They're all flat fees?
They're all for sales.
Okay. And you don't have to pass a license on to the driver. You can just pay yourself. I mean, you're a good company, you make lots of money. If somebody's just driving part-time, you don't have to send them a $100 bill, right? You don't have to.
We prefer not.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Dodd?
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand the legislation. It's never been clear in my mind. First of all, are the people who operate these cars, I guess, under contract to a TNC provider? Something like that. Are they then employees or contractors too?
They're independent contractors.
They are contractors? So they're in business for themselves. When you're in business for yourself, you choose whether or not you are serious about your business or not. You choose whether to exert yourself. You choose whether or not to go out and hide, get up from behind the couch where you've been hiding all day and go out and try to make a sale, or pick up a rider. I can see certainly some people wanting to do this on a part-time basis. But we have a general applicability here of licenses in general to people who work full-time or part-time at their choice, just as you have portrayed to people who would be driving using your software. And I guess that's kind of what we're at here. You're a software company which is allowing people to use the software, and they're paying you a piece of the action that they get from driving their personal vehicle on both of yours behalf. They as contractors, you as, the people who are in charge. But the thing is, I don't see a difference between that and insurance agent operating out of his house who chooses to use his vehicle to get to and from a contact point, an appointment of some kind. I don't think we're arguing about a lot of money here either. That's the kind of thing I'm curious about, why you would prefer to discuss this with our staff instead of directly with the members of the council. And that seems to be your preference today, as expressed by you. You've already asked for an abeyance of this bill because you feel you haven't apparently got things negotiated with our staff. But we vote, and our staff does their best to help us, but they can't read our minds sometimes. I mean, you have to ask us, and we'll tell you our opinion. Then you might know whether we get a vote or not. And maybe we will end up voting the way that you think is wrong, and you'll go to court, and we'll find out, how you're supposed to do it. But I can only tell you from personal experience, there's a reason. There is a valid reason for everybody younger than 70 in this room why we regulated the transportation industry. And I don't care if you call them a network using software or a radio or a cell phone to connect company to driver. It's still the same thing. I want to know who those people are. I just want to be able to know that when somebody goes out into a neighborhood in my district, we have a reasonable idea who that person is. And that's why I want to see the names. I want to see the license paid on behalf of each of those people. And I don't see anything wrong with a nominal license fee. A person can choose to reimburse themselves as much as they want because it's a free country and you can work as hard as you want and make as much money as you want. And this is a good thing. This business is a good idea. It's wonderful. So I'm not against it. Not at all.
Councilman Kaufman brings up a good point in regards to each driver in relation to knowing who they are. I know today when a customer or guest receives a ride in a taxi, you have the opportunity to see the license for the cab driver, their name, identification numbers, and a list of other significant pieces of documentation. As it relates to the concept of Lyft and Uber, how does that relate, if at all, in relation to one having an opportunity to identify who they're in the vehicle with?
Under the state regulations, all of the regulation on those drivers is done by the Nevada Transportation Authority. They keep the list, they set the requirements, and they've done that through their regulations and rules. In the state law, from our research, it was pretty specific that we cannot create regulations on a driver that we don't apply to other persons who operate motor vehicles. When we have delivery trucks and those sorts of things, where we do not collect that type of information. Now, our auditors may see that.
If I may just stop you just for a second. There is a clear demarcation in regards to a driver that delivers mail that deliver milk from a manufacturing or distributing company to a local retailer, pizza delivery from the pizza shop to someone's home. We're talking about someone that's actually delivering a person, not necessarily a product. Some may consider a person to be the product of the conduit of business in which they operate. But what other business do we have in the city out when it comes to transport, where you transport people, such as MedWest and other medical transporting agencies that may pick someone up from a home to take them to a doctor's appointment or from one hospital to another with the appropriate identification, yet still in high field.
We have medical transport, we have limousines, we have tour bus companies, we have tour companies, we have a variety of those. We do not regulate or collect the names of those drivers. From a business licensing perspective, it's a regulatory body that sets the criteria for those. And in some cases, from a franchise perspective, if the ambulance franchise is ours, we may have in that contract specific regulations, but most of those certificates and the regulation of the profession is through a city.
Yeah.
I want to differentiate, but something's still missing here in the allegory of transportation, in essence delivering, even delivering people from one place to another. They're being delivered by third parties who are being watched by an employer. In this particular case, the companies choose to have contractors. These are individual people who own their business. Their business is a box with 4 wheels on it. The second you or I get into that box, we are in their control. That's a big difference. They're delivering bodies now, not just goods. And they're not working for an agency like a nonprofit or a third-party large limousine operator who knows who the drivers are because they've vetted them. We know that. And, I just don't understand why there's this rigidity on the part of the companies to simply concede on this point. I don't think you should just rely simply on the plain reading of the statute. It is my experience that plain reading of the statute is sometimes read differently by judges when they recognize that there's something more complicated at issue here. I don't know if it's ripe yet for judicial oversight, but I do believe that it's going to come to that. And I say this, so that there is a big difference, because when you get in that car, the door's closed, the button's down, all doors are locked. Hey, you're my prisoner if I'm the contractor. You're in my hands. I can take you where I want. If I don't want to take you to where you want to go.
I think they made a movie about that too.
Yeah. He was a better looking guy.
Right. Mr. Byrd, Mrs. K, or Miss K, you all have stated your wishes for this item to be obeyed. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
The only thing I would like to add, Councilman Kaufman's concerns, I appreciate Councilman. We, as well as working with staff, we would like the opportunity to further work with everyone on the council to talk about the complexities of both AB 176 and also the new industry, TNCs here in Southern Nevada, how the companies work, and address some of the concerns that have been raised.
TNC, I'm sorry.
It stands for Transportation Network Company.
Is that a different company?
No, that's just the sort of umbrella term that's used in AB 176 to describe companies such as Lyft.
Gotcha. Okay.
We, as stated, we hope between last hearing and this hearing, we have the opportunity to sit down with everyone. We did not, based on scheduling, based on holidays, have that opportunity to meet with everyone. We would like to continue to work with the council members as well as staff in order to find a way forward that makes sense. As our papers have indicated, we feel the revenue-based model that we're currently operating under on the temporary license is more reflective of the actual economic activity that's occurring here in the city of Las Vegas and is closer to the general applicability standard that's set forth in AB 176.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? If so, please come forward and state your name for the record. Seeing none, Okay. Staff, do you have any follow-up? Council members, any additional follow-up? Yes, sir.
Well, according to this agenda item, we're just talking about whether to give them a business license or not and what it should look like. So, I think it's fair to do the semi-annual $50. So I'm gonna make a motion to follow staff's recommendation and implement a semi-annual $50 fee for all transportation network companies that will consider on this.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a question?
Can I ask an explanation? All right, so then, Councilman, are you saying that we just levy the fee? Are you following the bill as is, which does not let us know who the drivers are?
Well,
Am I right on that, Karen? I'm wrong.
Yeah, if you look on line 16,
Dave?
page 4, line 16, in order to determine active driver means a driver who has provided services in response to one or more prearranged requests for service from a transportation network company in any 30-day period. Transportation network company shall provide a report to the department listing the name and identification or driver number of each active driver on a monthly basis or in a manner approved by the director.
It is in there. Why did I think that it wasn't in there?
I don't know.
Well, don't look at me. I'm just a dumb guy. Is that because I was thinking of it, knowing it in advance as opposed to knowing it after the fact?
We cannot get inside of that brain.
And I tell you, don't try. 2 weeks, we will.
It looks like the
There's more to it.
the Lou Ruvo brain.
I will
Twisting.
concede that. It's part of the beauty of old age. I think I'll support the motion to move it forward, but without committal to the vote on the floor.
Okay, good deal.
Do that.
So there's a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you.
It's not as easy as that. Okay.
We'll bring it back to council. And also, Mr. Burr and Ms. Kay, if you're out there. Oh, about that. This does come up to City Council December 16th, so yet and still you do have an opportunity to continue to meet with council members. And we have an opportunity also to talk about it on the 16th. So although it's passed out of committee as a recommendation for approval, we still have an opportunity to have additional conversations and make any adjustment with the full council on the 16th. Okay?
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
We get a chance to say it again.
All right. Bill number 2015-97 for possible action amends the Las Vegas Municipal Code Title 7 to replace provisions pertaining to feral cats with provisions pertaining to community cats. This is sponsored by the biggest cat of them all, Councilman Bob Coffin.
Do that.
Yeah.
Do that. That's cat.
All I know is ever since you brought this forward, my inbox has been inundated with thousands
No.
of emails.
From
I
cats.
think, huh?
That's the next one.
I know.
Yeah, that's the other one. This is
But
a simple
one.
one.
The other one, yeah.
Yeah, the other
His name's on that
His
one.
name is on that one
I
too.
know, he's causing-
Right, he's causing a lot of waves.
Do up, do up.
With that, staff,
All right, let me
is
just,
there anyone from staff who want to speak on this item?
if we want to hear.
I can certainly tell the committee what I know.
Well, before you do that,
Okay,
we do
Councilman?
have people who are here representing the agency which asked me to carry this bill. They know I'm a cat lover, so they picked on the soft guy here. So we have witnesses, I think, from the Animal Foundation. and
Okay, that's
who else.
fine.
So they're here to speak on behalf, they'll actually explain to them.
Okay. Val, would you at least provide us with what you know? And if there's anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item, please come forward to the table as well so that we may prepare you for your comments as well. Val?
Yes, thank you. Members of the committee, Val Steed, Deputy City Attorney. This bill in its initial form is presented as part of a valley-wide effort to update the way that what has been known as feral cats are handled. It has been termed that with feral cats and feral cat colonies. The proposed changes would rename them community cats and adjust some of the requirements, some of the limitations, some of the approaches. A lot of the existing ordinance that talks about feral cats, a lot of it was focused around the existence of a sponsor and a central sponsor. That's been proposed to be changed. We had brought forward some amendments to the bill as originally proposed that we discovered afterwards should have been done originally, having to do with the function of the sponsor, which goes away. But we understand that there are other amendments that will be proposed here today, and so maybe it should be, maybe we should hold off until the committee has an opportunity to hear the comments from the public.
Okay, I appreciate that. We have two members from the public wishing to speak. Please state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Carly Schulten. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Animal Foundation. Thank you so much for having us today, and thank you to Councilman Coffin for sponsoring this ordinance change. As you may be aware, on June 1st, we started a pilot program with the support of Councilman Coffin, Councilwoman Tarkanian, as well as Commissioner Jean Kiliani and Commissioner Mary Beth Scow. And since then, we have successfully re-put 560 plus cats back to their home territory safely so that they could survive. And those over 560 cats that came to our shelter would have had a 100% of dying in our care if not for this program. You may also be aware that a few weeks ago, the County Commission unanimously passed similar changes to their Title X to support the opportunity for us to implement this program valley-wide. And once we have that opportunity, we hope to have that opportunity, we look at the ability to save over 4,000 additional lives each year compared to what we're able to do now for our cats. And to clarify, the current program right now only allows a cat that comes to our shelter to be returned if it's ear-tipped and already part of a registered colony. So we have over 4,000 feral cats or free-roaming and community cats coming to our shelter each year that simply have no option because they are not adoption candidates. This program has been widely successful in many other communities across this country in not only saving lives in the shelter, but in reducing complaints and nuisance behaviors because we're returning sterilized cats to communities, and a lot of those behaviors, the spraying, the howling and whatnot, that goes away once the animals are sterilized. The other phenomenal thing about this program is it offers resources to the community that don't currently exist. There are program liaisons that will work with community members to try to find a solution to any concerns they have should there be cats in their neighborhood or on their property. We look to work with them to find non-lethal ways to deal with their concerns while also taking into consideration public health and safety. These changes do not eliminate the ability to remove cats should there be a legitimate health or safety issue or nuisance issue, but it simply gives our community additional options, and we look forward to moving forward with this. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Peter Wolf, Research Analyst with Best Friends Animal Society. For the record, I want to make clear to Councilman Barlow that I'm responsible for just 2 emails in your inbox last week. So a little lengthy, but there's only 2 of them. Again, I'll keep my comments brief. And again, Carly, I think, did a very good job of explaining the pilot program. And this is a collaboration with the Animal Foundation and Best Friends. Best Friends operates more of these large-scale return-to-field programs than any other organization in the country. And this puts us in a unique position to talk about the benefits that these programs have, obviously, to the cats. Again, Carly mentioned more than 560 have been returned just in the last few months. Not just to the cats, though, but to the municipal shelters and the communities that these shelters serve. And there are requested changes that we've made. And again, this is, the details are spelled out in these emails. The requested changes will make this a truly top-notch return-to-field program here in Las Vegas. And the rationale for these, again, you have the details in your email, but basically, again, they reflect a best practices for community cat programs. but also preserve consistency in the language of the proposed Title VII. And finally, again, as Charlie mentioned, I'm sure as you're all aware, Clark County unanimously passed changes to their Title X, and this would very closely align then with what they've already approved. And the results, again, Carly mentioned the 560 cats. She mentioned the ability to address nuisance complaints and to serve public health in that manner. The other item I would mention that's really important to point out is, and again, Best Friends, we operate all these programs. We see very strong evidence that these programs, unlike the traditional method of managing these cats, reduces the breeding population within the community. And obviously this is really important. This is what we all want. As my director likes to say, whether you love the cats, as I do, as Charlie does, as Councilman Coughlin does, or loathe the cat, as some people do, some residents in the community, this is the program for you. So again, with the changes that have been proposed, I think this can be a really top-notch program here in Las Vegas, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
Councilman Neff.
You know, when I first heard about this program, it was something new to me, and I didn't completely understand it. And the way I was kind of initially digesting it was that you would go out, because these are basically wildcats, right? They're just roaming around the world. So you would capture these wildcats, and then you would do something to them, and you put them back. And that didn't really make sense to me at the beginning. So if you could just kind of explain that, because once it was explained, I kind of understood it, but just kind of remind me how this works.
Sure. So there's two components to the program. One is for the cats that are already coming to our shelter, whether that's by patrons or animal control officers. And then there will also be a piece where we would go proactively trap and bring cats in. They come into the shelter, they'd be sterilized, so spay or neutered, ear-tipped and vaccinated, and they'd be put right back where they were successfully living as a free-roaming cat in our community. And the reason that is so important and will help in the long run reduce the overall free-roaming cat population is because currently when a cat is removed and subsequently euthanized, the food source that was supporting that cat still existed. And what's going to happen is new cats will come in to take up those resources, and often those are intact cats that will breed. And biologically, if there are more resources available, cats will have larger litters, they'll be more prolific breeders than they already are. So by bringing a cat into the shelter, whether that's through normal means or through proactive trapping, and putting them back intact, it allows them to continue to use those resources and prevents new intact cats from coming in and breeding. So it's going to increase the number of sterilized cats in the community, it's going to stabilize the population, and in the long run, reduce the number of free-roaming cats that we have in our community.
So when you're talking about these community cats, these are cats that particular neighborhood, they're okay with having those cats there. Is that kind of what we're talking? So what if the community doesn't want those particular cats there and you're putting them back?
That's one of the great things about this program. We have liaisons to work with those communities to find out why are the cats there? What are the resources that are drawing the cats to that area? Is there a humane way for us to deter the cats from being in that area? A lot of times it's as simple as the neighbor of the complainant is feeding cats. And so that makes it a little bit more challenging, but there's humane deterrence that we can offer through this program. We request a donation, but often offer them for free to keep the cats off of the properties where people don't want them to be. And if there truly is a nuisance, public health, or safety issue, then animal control can get involved, declare the nuisance, and the cats would in fact be removed. But we work to prevent that from being the solution.
So you have liaisons that kind of work with neighbors and keep them in certain communities and not in, okay.
Councilman, if I may just add to that, and Carly touched on this a little bit, what we see again with these programs throughout the country is when you're talking about life-saving programs, the support you get from the community is just phenomenal. Versus, again, the traditional means, which was impoundment, often followed by lethal injection. We all know you've got to pay someone to do the dirty work. If that's, and again, that's been done for generations in this country with no positive impact population-wise. But as soon as you make the switch to life-saving programs. And again, this is not to say that nuisance complaints are ignored by any stretch, but you've got an army of volunteers, whether they're our best friend volunteers working with the Animal Foundation or TAP volunteers, whether it's going out and humane deterrence, whether it's knocking on doors, finding out who's feeding the cats, are there more cats that need to be picked in the community, whatever it is, you have this army of volunteers that shows up to do the life-saving work. And it's a really important, you couldn't do these kind of programs if you didn't have that asset available to you. And again, this community has shown phenomenal support just since June.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Ball?
Yeah, I think we should have painted the situation out here for people who may not understand it. And many people are here for another bill, but the idea is that my own personal interest came in because an elderly neighbor across the street in her declining years was starting to rely on us to feed her cats, which were outdoor cats. You can call them strays or wild or feral. Doesn't matter. It all amounts to the same. But the idea was that we took care of them for her. And one of her last wishes was that we continue to care for them. And so we have for 10 more years cared for these cats. They started to multiply, and we sought the advice of the foundation and C5 and Heaven Can Wait. And they actually helped us learn how to set up traps. And we caught all of them, we thought, twice now in the last 8 years, and had them all neutered and brought them back. Now, what happened is it reduced in our downtown area because in the old part of town, half the town, we have above ground wiring, phones, cable, you name it. And the rats that came into town when all the newcomers came because they wanted palm trees brought rats. The rats multiplied like flies. The cats have got the rats under control in our neighborhood. So there's a beneficial reason, but there's nobody being forced to feed them. In fact, we really don't want people to feed them, but it's an uncontrollable impulse on the part of people like my wife and other people who would be classified as crazy cat ladies. And they need to do it. And so therefore it's going to happen. It's like people that feed pigeons. I would prefer to eat the pigeon. In any event, the point is that they are going to be here whether we like it or not. But we are a product, we're living with a product of the recession because so many thousands of cats and dogs were abandoned, many thousands. And now they ran free, they found places to live and or die. Right now these colonies find places to live and die. I mean, they're not really keeping them alive. They're just inhabiting your place temporarily, and they move on. And I think they've satisfied our purposes in our neighborhood. They've performed an interesting service, but I'm sure there are people in my neighborhood that hate them. I don't know who they are because nobody's come up and said we ate your cats. But they're not really my cats. They're Mrs. Wegner's cats. She's dead. So blame her. In the meantime, I love cats. So hence this bill. And by the way, the pilot project's worked pretty good with Chris G. and I have been working together on one to see if it would work. And it seems to be able to work. So hence this definition change and the bill.
I like the way he blames everything on Mrs. Wigner. Is there any, did you all have anything else to add to the conversation today?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? If so, please come forward and state your name for the record. Thank you. Mr.
Copies
Wolfman,
of
Carly.
your amendments, by the way.
If you have anything that you need
You
to
said you
present
had
to the
emails,
clerk,
but you see, I don't have it with me.
you can
I don't
please
bring
send them to the clerk if you have anything.
Thank you.
to
Better
add.
bring those amendments up here to us.
Hi.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Council. For the record, my name is Jana Wright. I'm a resident in Ward 3, and we're part of the pilot program that has been in effect. And daily, I walk and love seeing the cats and fingertips on my walk. I think for me, the big answer is the cats are here. That's the light bulb that went off over my head. You can do nothing. You're going to continue to have breeding cats. You can't kill your way out of this predicament because we tried to do that for years and years and it didn't work. Then TNR, the city was one of the leaders who introduced feral cat ordinance. The county jumped on it, and North Las Vegas now has a feral cat TNR part of their animal code. This is just the next tool in the toolbox, the shelter neuter return. You have an organization Best Friends and the Animal Foundation, as well as our community partners, C5, Heaven Can Wait, Las Vegas Valley Humane Society, who are out there tracking these cats. They are spay-neutering them and returning them, and they are working with neighbors on any problem. And because of that, I believe euthanasia at the shelter is down 65%. This is just a wonderful bill. Although, in essence, I support it, I do have a couple of questions, and maybe they are addressed in your amendments. On page 3, on line 20, it mentions the central sponsor. The central sponsor position is being eliminated. I'm sure that just needs to be deleted. On page 4, on line 6, under parentheses D as in dog, it talks about community cats that are impounded a second time. I would like to see that second time deleted.
Why?
Well, I think that what we're trying to do is to save healthy animals, and if it's impounded a second time, why would we not return it back to its colony and address the concerns if it's being caught by a neighbor or etc. And I think Dr. Karen Lane is going to address some other issues, but thank you for bringing this forward, Councilman Kaufman. I certainly support it.
Mr. Chairman and council members, I'm Karen Lane. I'm president of the Las Vegas Valley Humane Society. I want to say, first of all, that I do support this bill. The Las Vegas Valley Humane Society has been a member of the coalition, which is since, even before 2008, has been spaying, neutering, and returning cats back to the locations from where they came from. I think as Jana Wright pointed out, the issue is that the cats are already there. And what we've seen, and the city started actually was the beginning of this, was to try to do something other than to trap cats and euthanize them. Prior to 2008, between the city actually over the 10-year period prior to 2008, trapped and euthanized over 100,000 cats with no real difference other than to use up very valuable animal control manpower and collecting those traps and taking them to the animal found to the shelter to be euthanized. So this, what we see is another step on the continuum that has happened, not only with the TNR, but now is to say that if a healthy cat, that is a community cat that goes into the shelter, it will be returned back to where it came from. And the coalition just talked about some of the reasons for that. It certainly makes sense to do that. And we are seeing decreases in the impound rate since this coalition has been spaying and neutering since 2008, over 75,000 feral cats. So it's made a huge difference, and we hope to continue that. With that in mind, I'd like to just make a couple of concerns that, as I looked at this, and I hope that you will address these. The first is on page 3, and it talks about, we've already talked about the fact that on page 3, on item number, on line 5, it says, it says they, whose sponsor qualifies, and my understanding is that there is no longer a sponsor, so that might be something that should be addressed. I would hope that...
Brackets are taking that language out.
That has been taken out?
That's what the brackets.
And then I'm assuming all of the language from 10 through 14 is already also being deleted, or I hope that you would do that in terms of maintaining a record of the cat sterilization and vaccinations. These are caretakers' responsibilities, and revaccinate the cat for rabies. That you would consider deleting that since you're no longer requiring that as a part of this program. The other issue is on, let's see, it has already been addressed on page 4 about the second time on item line 6,
We certainly agree with that. A lot of times what we see when these cats are being trapped by a neighbor, if there's an issue, what we need to do is find out what the issue is. In the past, the Las Vegas Valley Humane Society has put in its own funds, whether it's to re-rock our yard or try to resolve the issue between the two neighbors. That's part of what these groups do, and we think that's a better solution than to trap the cat and have it euthanized. Now, my understanding also, let's see, just go to the next. What I also want to ask, it says at the bottom of page 6, on line 26, it says if a community cat has a microchip or identification tag is trapped and turned into the Animal Control Center, it says process for adoption and return to the location. We would ask that you also add in there as probably the first priority is to return the cat to its owner. If it's microchipped, it probably does have an owner. I will tell you that all of our cats since 2004 have been microchipped. We will always take the cat back. Regardless, if the owner is no longer available, we show ourselves as the priority owner. We want the cat back, not to be returned to the field. So we'd ask that you'd include that as number 1. Then, let's see, I'm looking at, down on, same on line, page 7, on line 23, where you talk about the animal regulation officer shall have the authority to declare a particular colony cat a nuisance or hazardous to the health and safety of the public. We would simply ask that you contact that, since this animal regulation officer, this is the same thing that the county has done and assigned to their chief of animal control and code enforcement. We would ask that that person use that very judiciously and try to work with the groups that are out there to resolve those nuisance problems without first declaring it a nuisance. Most of the time, TAF has already said that they've got people who are working on this. We have people to try to work with those organizations to try to resolve that nuisance problem before declaring it a nuisance. And then, and I believe that covers everything.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? If so, please come forward and state your name for the record.
Councilman, I'm sorry.
Well, hold on one second.
I'm sorry.
Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Okay, please come back forward.
Sorry, the only hard
Mr. Wolf.
Yeah.
I have some questions for you, by the way, as
Oh,
well.
sure.
And Carly, if you don't mind coming back as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The only
I'm glad
hard
to hear
copy I have is reflects old language from Title VII. I can either email to the clerk, or if it's easier for her or me to just read off whatever's convenient for you guys in terms of the requested changes.
Okay. How much information is it?
A little bit.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and email it to the clerk?
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I appreciate anybody who's mentioned changes. It's courtesy when you're suggesting that a written document be changed, that you provide the written change.
My apologies. The only response I received
Not
was
just
from
to you, Peter,
Councilman
it's to everybody else, Anna, and, Karen. If you want changes, give it to us in writing so that we can study them. We don't have incapacitated memories here, except for me, and I'm the guy. All right.
If I'm going to email them, I'm going to need an email address.
I'll write it down for you. ldholmes@lasvegasnevada.gov.
Thank you.
Any questions? Did you have anything else you want to share, Mr. Wolf? Okay. The question that I have is, how many times annually can a cat become impregnated?
I think that's for me.
Okay.
I'm familiar with a lot of the science on this. In warm climates, I'm in Phoenix, very similar here to Las Vegas. 2 litters per year is not uncommon. They say on average 3 or 4 kittens per litter. Again, in the warmer climates, we tend to be above average in terms of both litters per year and number of kittens per litter.
So, the mother can become impregnated twice a year and have as many as 4 kittens.
It can be more than that. That's considered the average is 3 or 4. It can be up to 6. 6 is not uncommon.
So at max, twice a year, and as far as impregnated, and at max, 12 kittens annually.
Yeah. And in fact, the females can become pregnant as young as 4 months.
As 4 months.
So within that 1 year cycle, the first litter is already working on the next generation.
Someone will be in trouble if they got my 4-month-old pregnant. Second question is it possible to relocate cats to a different community if one community does not want the cats returned?
So Best Friends, and this is true of all the organizations who do this, we consider relocation an absolute last resort for a couple of reasons. One, first of all, the nuisance complaints can usually be resolved, and in a lot of cases, as Carly already mentioned, the sterilization resolves a lot of what folks complain about. That is the spraying, the yowling, all the rest of it. The sterilization takes care of a lot of that. So that's one issue. The other is proper relocation requires a minimum of 2 weeks. We like to say 3 to 4 weeks of confinement at the new location, and that can be, we talk about farm programs or working cat programs in like Phoenix and Vegas. Don't have a lot of farms. It's really labor intensive to do it right. What you don't want to do is just take the cats to another location, another neighborhood, whether you know there's a colony there or not, and just drop them off and sort of wish them well. What they tend to do, and we see these stories in newspapers, right? Someone moves across the country, cat gets out, goes all the way back home. That's their tendency, and of course, if you relocate them to an area that's on the other side of a busy road or freeway, some barrier, you're pretty much setting themselves up. And again, I'm in Phoenix, it's very similar to Las Vegas. There's a lot of predators in the outlying areas, so we consider that really a last resort relocation. Again, because to do it right is pretty resource intensive, but it is done. The other thing to keep in mind is there's more opportunities to do it right when Carly's not bursting at the seams over there with kennels full of cats because we're doing return appeal. There's opportunities for positive outcomes that this sort of program frees up. So it all kind of works together. I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. And what is the purpose of the ear tag?
Okay, sorry. The ear tip is usually they take about 1/4 of an inch off the top of, typically it's left ear that Donnie here saying this. That is for identification from some distance that this cat has been sterilized. This cat is part of this managed program. And so for caregivers, again, I'm a caregiver for these cats. I need to know when a new one shows up. I might not recognize visually, but I can tell is the ear tipped or not. If not, I've got some homework to do. I've got to get this one sterilized.
And how do you determine whether or not a cat has someone mentioned an insert?
Microchip?
Microchip.
So that would be, they've a scanner. Typical enforcement officers have them in the field. Increasingly, cats and dogs, far more dogs than cats, but they're microchipped, and it's just about the size of a grain of rice, put between the shoulder blades, and you can scan it and tell immediately owner information. Unfortunately, a lot of times the information is out of date, so it requires a little detective work, but you can get a cat or dog back to their owner with a microchip.
Great. And you're familiar with the deletions that Jana and Karen brought forward?
Yes.
Okay. Are you in support of that? In opposition to that?
In support.
I appreciate it. Anything else you would like to check?
No, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we're going to close public comment. Council members. You have any questions? The sponsor.
I would like to move for passage with amendments, and as stated in testimony by Jana Wright, Karen Lane, and Jeffrey. Jeff, is it? I'm sorry.
Peter, sorry.
Peter and the Wolf. Okay. And however, I want to see them as we move them forward. This is scheduled for presentation to the council on the 16th of December. I'd like to see the in essence, a redraft of this bill whenever Val can get around to it, that by late this week or next week.
Okay.
So we can determine whether to continue to move forward with it. So we have that limbo where we can make changes and then determine if something's unworkable. We can get in touch with you and say, yes, it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right.
And before you do that, I do have one additional question. Is there anyone from Animal Control, City of Las Vegas? I haven't heard from you all at all in relation to this ordinance. Is there anything that you all have concerns about, specifically from what's been requested to be deleted? Are you all okay with the recommendations?
Tim Schaffner, Detention and Enforcement. I think we'll need to sit down with Val. We just got the changes late last week, so we need to sit down and kind of go over them. In our initial look, most of them we were okay with. I think there was a couple of them that we might have some concerns with.
Yeah, and I would be interested to know what those concerns are from the City of Las Vegas, because I want to make sure that we have all of our eyes dotted and T's crossed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Councilman Coffin?
Well, all right, then in that case, I will move to give a favorable recommendation to bill number 2015-97 with the aforementioned amendments, and to be heard by the council on the 16th of December. And like you, Tim, I also have some thoughts about some of those proposed amendments. Want to run them by everybody that's involved. Will find out about it. Okay,
Motion?
that's the motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor with the appropriate amendments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you also very much for your due diligence. Thank you. Next line item of business is bill number 2015-98 for possible action prohibits pet shops from selling or disposing of dogs or cats again, other than those obtained from an animal shelter, nonprofit, humane society, or nonprofit animal rescue organization. This is also sponsored by Councilman Bob Beers and Councilman Bob Coffin, staff.
And I'm sorry that, Mr. Chairman, just for people not familiar with this, I'm sorry, Mr. Beers cannot be here because he's not allowed to testify on his own bill because of a quirk in the open meeting law. Since there are three here, a fourth would make a majority. If he was here, one of us could step out. He's the prime sponsor of the bill, and I agreed to co-sponsor. Thank you.
Okay. I would have been happy to step out.
If he can be found, Beers can be found.
Yeah, actually, I would like to, if he's in the building, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if anyone from his staff or someone from his staff is here. Who?
John Bear.
Who? John Bear? I don't see anyone. In the process, Felipe, if someone would just call and see if he's in the building, I would like for him to have an opportunity to speak on this. Being that I've received so many emails this weekend, I had to come into the office to delete a lot of stuff just to get some additional information into my inbox. And I appreciate everyone sending the standard opposition letter. I read probably about 10 or 15 of them before they became redundant, but please know that your message landed very solidly.
I didn't get them. And I'm just wondering
Yeah,
if that's
it locked up my inbox. I couldn't move anything this weekend until I moved all of the opposition out of my inbox. So with that being said, while we locate the sponsor of the bill, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item? And I know that there's hundreds of people that sent emails, so without being redundant, if you hear something that has already been said or stated, please don't repeat it for the sake of time. And what I will do, being that it's so many people that have come to speak on this item, I'm going to allocate just a couple minutes, if you will, for you to share with us your thoughts, your ideas, your input, and we'll move on, if you will. Okay? So we'll go two at a time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
James Redondo, Overton, Nevada. Full disclosure, I work for the County Commissioner's Office, but I'm here today on behalf of what I do in our organ, which is a potbelly pig rescue.
Potbelly pig rescue.
Potbelly pig rescue. I'm imploring you to please add potbelly pigs to your dog and cat sales in pet shops, because that's where a lot of our headaches start. There are 2 potbelly pig rescues in town. Sharon Linsenbart at the Las Vegas Farm has also taken in Hunt's pigs, and there's a young lady here today at One Family Sanctuary that they have also taken in pigs. You don't know it's a problem until you know somebody that's got trouble with one. But they buy them being told they're going to stay 10 to 15 pounds, and then by the time they're a year old, they're 80 pounds and they're out of control, and they don't make good pets if you don't have the right place for them. So Clark County several years ago, with the help of Commissioner Jim Kiliani and former Commissioner Tom Collins, put potbelly pigs in with the definition of household pets. I don't know, I'm not real familiar with your Title VII, but I would also strongly urge you to possibly look at doing something like that as well. But if you please add them into the cats and dogs and potbelly pigs, it's a crisis. And listen, I can give them all the inventory they need. If they tell you that they're afraid they won't have inventory, we've got pigs for them that they can sell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you repeat
Yes.
your name again? I'm sorry.
Janice Redondo.
Redondo, R-I-D-O-N-D-O.
Yes, sir.
How do they taste?
Oh, Councilman.
Okay. Next, please.
For the record, Jana Wright, speaking for myself today.
If you don't mind grabbing the microphone, so that folks in the back can hear you. I think it's already on. Okay, we'll turn it on, please.
For the record, Jana Wright, President of Ward 3, City of Las Vegas, and also full disclosure, I'm a staff member for Commissioner Christian Kiliani. I'm speaking today for myself in support of this bill. I thank the sponsors for bringing it forward, and I also support my friend Janice Redondo and her potbelly pig rescue, and would also echo the comments that they be added to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Chairman, council members, I'm Karen Lane, President of the Las Vegas Valley Humane Society. We do support this bill. The only comment that we will make, and Councilman Coffin, I promise you that I will get these to you in writing. Sorry, it's been kind of crazy. But on the first page, on line 16, where it talks about obtaining from an animal shelter, nonprofit humane society, nonprofit animal rescue organization, may I just recommend that you define those as a 501c3 organization? There are a lot of organizations out there that say they are rescue or animal organizations that don't have any IRS designator and still collect money. My suggestion would be that the 501c3 is a tax-exempt organization and is clearly defined as that under U.S. revenue, internal revenue, and I think that might be a way to go to make sure that they are a legitimate organization. And I also do support Janice Redondo's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mr. Chairman.
Next, sir.
Just a comment to Karen's testimony. Wouldn't anybody who breeds, whether they're breeding purebreds or just animals for sale or resale, couldn't anybody set up a 501c3 and then just transfer their property to the 501c3 from their breeding mill or their other thing? Because that's all. Well, I suppose I should look at Val for an answer. Does it really matter, Val, in the end, if in fact, they've done that add-on? She was kind of transparent in it.
Well, anybody can establish a 501 type organization, and I guess the idea that was suggested would help put some limits on it. But you're right, anybody can jump through a hoop that somebody puts in front of them.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Hi.
Excuse me, Councilman.
Yes.
Not sure this is on. Everyone might be fine. For the record, Mark Benson, Chief Financial Officer. I think the 501c3 designation would only be critical if you were making a donation to an organization, especially if you write it off as a charitable donation. That would be my issue.
Mark can engage you on that. If in fact the owner donates to then essentially the same thing. I mean, there's a way to get around everything we do.
You need to be a 501c3 designated charitable organization in order to be able to write off the donation, so that would be the issue.
Question is, I don't think they're in it to donation.
Right, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm just adding that bit of color.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Okay.
Good morning, Gina Gregson, Nevada Voters for Animals, for the record. We're in support of this. We also support the language from Janice regarding the pigs, and I do hope that we can define somehow, that it's really done for purposes of rescue, even if you're a 501c3 and maybe not affiliated with a breeder. Somehow there's got to be a way to define that out so that we're not having a lot of litters coming from breeders, backyard breeders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Regina Harmon. I run the Southern Nevada Beagle Rescue Foundation. I can personally tell you I've seen a lot of these puppy mill dogs come. The dogs they sell in the puppy stores, they are puppy mill dogs. They are neglected. They're all cute when they're in the store, but they come with a lot of medical problems, and we end up with those dogs a lot of times. People buy them for outrageous prices, and then they have issues or problems, and we end up with the dogs. But
You say
we've actually,
who is we?
we in rescue, my rescue, as well as I can name numerous
What is your
rescues.
rescue?
Southern Nevada Beagle Rescue Foundation. We are 501c3. We've been in town for at least almost 10 years. But we have seen dogs that have actually come out of the puppy mills, not the cute little puppies, but all the dogs they use for getting those puppy mill dogs to the stores. And these dogs have been neglected so much medically. They're matted. They have a lot of medical problems that aren't being taken care of. And these are living creatures. They live in a box 24/7. No puppy or any dog should live in a box like that. A person couldn't do it, and they can't either. They have feelings just like we do. So I'm all for this ordinance. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Regina.
Yes.
When you say puppy mills, help me understand what that term means, puppy mill.
Puppy mill is, there can be backyard breeders, but they're generally, most of them are in the Midwest. They're sometimes on the East Coast. They literally have hundreds of dogs in boxes on top of each other or next to each other, and they're there to breed. That's all they do. They breed and breed and breed. I personally have a dog that was taken out of a puppy mill, one that was busted, and they took hundreds of dogs out. She had a lot of problems when she came to me because they're not socialized and they're afraid of everything. They're barely fed. They're fed enough to keep alive so that they can keep producing. So that's kind of what a puppy mill is. They're there to breed the dogs, these cute little puppies that then they can then send off to the puppy stores to sell them. And a lot of them are sick.
Oh, so the puppy stores purchase the puppies from
Yes.
puppy mills?
That is it,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next scoop. Hi.
Hello. My name is Amy Rouse. I'm a volunteer with several organizations such as NSPCA and Locals Upon Pet. I'm here today asking you to please recommend this ordinance for passage. Pet stores get their puppies from high-volume commercial dog breeder operations, also known as puppy mills, that produce millions of puppies every year in horrific conditions. The last thing Las Vegas needs is thousands of puppies being brought in from these puppy mills to be sold at our local pet stores. Cities such as San Diego, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and several other cities, too many to name, have passed this ordinance banning the sale of commercially bred dogs unless they come from shelters or rescue groups. By cutting off the supply of milled puppies being imported into the community, they are addressing the puppy mill problem while increasing adoption opportunities for pets in local shelters. Pet stores that offer animals for adoption relieve the burden on shelters and rescue groups by getting homeless pets into a retail setting where they will have a greater chance of being seen by the public. A large part of the population still don't know where to go for a pet, and in some cases the first place they think of is the pet store. And some people find the shelter, they think it might be too sad. So by putting these shelter dogs in a retail setting, it just seems more desirable. It's an increasingly popular model. It's a win-win for the community and the animals. And since many dogs in shelters are cast dogs from people who purchase them in pet stores. Banning retail sales helps reduce the number being killed in our shelters, which is one of the highest in the nation. I would love to see this ordinance passed because not only is our city currently supporting puppies bred in these cruel and horrific factory-like settings, but these puppies are being sold unfixed. So if the owners of these puppies do not fix them, then these puppies can create thousands of more puppies, mostly unwanted, and the cycle of full shelters and killing starts all over again. So I hope we can all agree that this ordinance needs to be recommended.
Thank you, Amy. Hi.
Hi, my name is Arby Bromley. Arby, it's A-R-B-I-E.
A-R-B-I-E. And your last name?
Bromley.
Spell that.
B-R-O-M-L-E-Y.
Thank you. Glad to hear from you.
Thank you. I would like to also recommend that this ordinance be passed. The puppy mill industry is a horrific industry. The animals are, for all the animals involved, these cute little puppies that we see in the puppy stores, they really hide a very dark reality for the breeding dogs. They are kept in cages constantly. They never get out. They are purposely, often purposely injured to continue to sit in a cage. They're mistreated so that they can keep reproducing. We euthanize here in Las Vegas tens of thousands of animals every year. So why would we continue to support an industry that brings in more animals? Our shelters are full of animals waiting for adoption. Let's adopt out the animals we have before we bring in more animals, just to euthanize them. Thank you.
Thank you. A-R-B-I-E.
A-R-B-I-E.
Hi.
Hi guys, Kristen Corral, Nevada Political Action for Animals, Vice President. I'll be quick. We are in support of this bill. I think right now over 100 other cities have already passed it, so we're not reinventing the wheel, so we'd love to see you guys pass it. Thank you so much.
Melissa Boyd. I'm here to represent the Home for Spot Animal Rescue, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. This bill is a huge step in the right direction in controlling our huge problem with this pet overpopulation we have here in Las Vegas. I commend Councilman Beers and Coughlin for sponsoring this bill. All pet stores should be prohibited from making a profit from the inhumane treatment of any animal, while our shelters, rescues, and community are left to deal with the unwanted, sick, and discarded pets left behind. Many of these puppies coming from puppy mills that our pet stores buy from, they're put in cages so small that as they grow, they don't expand the cages, they don't put them in bigger cages. Often they wind up in a rescue or at the animal shelter because they've never learned to stand up straight. They're deformed because they can't stand up straight. Rescues are paying for the surgery to try to correct their problems when they can save their lives. And with Christmas coming, the pet stores are probably going to be killing people buying puppies as Christmas presents, that probably more than half will wind up at the animal shelter by January, February of next year. So I fully recommend that this bill goes to the City Council, and thank you very much for having me.
Your name again?
Melissa Boyd.
Melissa Boyd. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we'll just take the next two. As you all see someone get up, just please feel free to come and have a seat.
For the record, I am not in support
Your
of this. My name is Christopher Beth. For the last 10 years, I've been a representative with the Pet Lane corporate office located in Chillicothe, Ohio. And a major percentage of my time has been dedicated to finding and visiting pet breeders, both domestically and internationally. I also bring our store owners out to visit these same breeders so they can see and understand where the great quality pets come from firsthand. I have logged thousands of windshield miles to assure our pets come from the right sources. In my travels, I have found, like any profession or service, there are some substandard ones. However, lumping all breeders as substandard is not only stereotypical, but extremely judgmental and flat out wrong. This unfair representation of the breeder community is not fact-based and is without scientific merit. It is purely an emotional reaction that creates an emotional response, thus ignoring reality. Instead, I would like to show you the types of breeders that we seek out and utilize in our stores. In the handout, you can see a variety of images that I've personally taken over the years on various breeder trips that Petland has organized with our individual store owners and corporate employees. These are not random pictures found on the internet. I personally took each one of these pictures while inspecting these facilities. These images clearly show the type of breeders we select. They have ample living space and even more exercise space. I might note that in many of these situations, they have more space than we have in our own backyards for our own pets. These images have not only helped Petland Associates, but have also served as a source for talking points in conversations with breeders that do not meet Petland standards. I am here to tell you that most of the pet breeders I have met never take vacations. They never get days off. They never even call in sick. How is this possible? Simply because they've made the health and well-being of their pets first. In my experience, most of these pet breeders have made significant investments in time, resources, to ensure they are offering the best quality, well-socialized family pets possible. We invest all this time and expense so we can be sure that we are offering the best quality pets to our customers and that we are not utilizing substandard facilities that are commonly referred to as mills. In many cases, our field visits have been impactful to recognize, identify, and report problems as we strive to be agents of change. Over the last 50 years, the Petland focus has been matching the right pet to the right customer. The only way we have been able to do this for such an extended period of time is by providing the best pets possible. The processes that I've described today are both integral and essential to continuing to meet the goal that best serves our customers and the well-being of our companion pets.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Mr. Beck.
Hi, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
My name is Misty Rose, and I'm a foster mom and volunteer with a Home for Spot Rescue. I'm also the owner of a dog from Petland. His name is Waylon Brown. He's a King Charles Spaniel, and he was purchased for me as a gift last year. He came to my home with intestinal parasites, Giardia, which most of the dogs in Petland stores are infected with, because when these dogs come in with these parasites, they travel very quickly. They're very hard to get rid of. I also looked at my paperwork from Petland to try to see where my dog came from. The breeder that Waylon was bred by is located in Missouri. His name is Mark Landers. He's had 2 puppy mill operations shut down. The first operation that he had shut down was under a different business license name. He has a business partner and his mother. Every time one of his puppy mills gets shut down, another operation is opened up with a different business license name. I'm the proud owner of Rescue Dog. His name is Bugsy Brown, and he has cost me over $27,000 to rehabilitate. When Bugsy came to me, he had chlamydia in his eyes. He had ear mites that had eaten away to his inner ear canal, now causing regular infections that he has to be anesthetized to have it cleansed. He has mitral valve disease and requires regular heart checkups. He has deformed hips, deformed paws. He had a herniated disc in his back, an umbilical hernia in his stomach. These are the type of breeders that Petland purchases from. These dogs are tortured.
their mothers are left in boxes, their illnesses go untreated, and they are bought at auction and shipped into our state while rescue dogs die. I agree with Janice, and I support her proposal to add pigs to this bill, and I really support City Council and our commissioners supporting this bill. It is so important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Holly Haley, I'm the Nevada State Director of the Humane Society of the United States.
Holly
Haley.
Holly Haley?
Holly Haley.
Okay.
And the Humane Society of the United States has been directly involved with many of the 94 localities across the country that have passed ordinances similar to the one you are considering. In many of the cities that have passed pet shop ordinances, we have seen a decrease in the shelter intake and euthanasia rates. And in some of the larger cities, these decreases have been dramatic. Thus, these ordinances save taxpayers money and save animals' lives. Pet shop ordinances are legally strong as they have been upheld on constitutional grounds in 5 federal district courts and have never been struck down. Pet shop ordinances protect consumers from misleading sales tactics. HSUS investigations repeatedly find that pet stores lie. Pet stores will tell consumers that puppies come from USDA licensed breeders, which are the best of the best, they say. And they also say they would never buy puppies from puppy mills. These statements are extremely misleading. First, a USDA license allows for a lot of cruelty. The USDA itself states that USDA licenses is not a seal of approval, and that its standards are merely survival standards. The USDA also admits when it audits itself that it does a horrible job of enforcing these minimal standards. Second, the claims that the pet stores don't buy from puppy mills are false, because pet stores don't have another option. Responsible breeders do not sell to pet stores because they will always want to know where their puppies end up. In fact, over 96% of national breed clubs say in their codes of ethics that breeders should not sell to pet stores. Pet shop ordinances protect consumers from unknowingly buying sick and unsocialized puppies. Based on many studies, most notably a Journal of Veterinary Medicine report, and complaints we receive daily at the Humane Society of the United States, it is clear that pet store puppies come with a wide range of undesirable behavior characteristics, including aggressiveness and increased likelihood of biting, and are often sick and expensive to care for. Note that these are the same reasons dogs end up in shelters. In conclusion, federal and state laws do almost nothing to protect consumers or animals suffering in puppy mills. You can't shut down a puppy mill in Missouri or force the USDA to do a better job, but you can protect Las Vegas citizens and stop puppy mill dogs from being imported into Las Vegas, giving animals in our shelters a much better chance of finding a forever home.
Hi, my name is Heather Carpenter. I'm a resident of the city of Las Vegas, and I am also the Regional Programs Director for the Humane Society of the United States. The Humane Society of the United States definitely supports this ordinance and recommend its passage. And just to follow up what Holly, my colleague, stated, is that these ordinances are business friendly, and what we have found is that stores who have switched to a more humane adoption-based program, those business models are thriving, while stores that are continuing to try to retain the traditional model of selling the commercially raised puppies are declining. And the Humane Society of the United States actually has worked with several stores in that conversion, and we are here ready to help any Las Vegas pet stores with that conversion as well. And my final comment, and we kind of found out about this just last week as well, that the Humane Society of the United States does have research and records regarding several of the commercial breeders who are supplying to several pet stores here in Las Vegas, including Petland. And we can provide those records to you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to step out for a moment. What is your name?
Heather Carpenter.
Heather Carpenter. Heather, are you familiar with any pet stores that receive at 100% pets from the shelters here locally?
That are just doing adoption-based, doing rescue, only offering rescue animals?
Correct.
Petco and PetSmart, who are the two very large pet supply facilities, they do offer their space to adoption only for dogs and cats.
PetSmart?
Yeah, Petco and PetSmart are definitely they offer adoption base. I'm not sure if there are any other smaller stores. A lot of pet supply stores don't offer any animals for sale. They just do dog food and leashes and things like that. But those are two well-known facilities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Holly.
Hello. My name is Kaylin Franca, and all of my pets are rescues. I volunteer as well as I'm a foster parent for our animal shelter. I worked in the pet store business for about 5 years when I was a little younger, and I do remember over half of the dogs at any given time were sick all the time. It was actually pretty, traumatizing working in the pet stores, to be honest, but I stayed for the well-being of the animals. A store, like Petland, the markup of the margin on a dog purchased by Puppy Mill is so high that it is in their best interest to send a couple people here with a written statement and photos to try to convince you otherwise of what they're doing. They will lose a lot of money if this is passed. So I'm not surprised that they're here right now. I do believe that it's extremely irresponsible for breeders or pet stores to sell animals when our populations in the shelters are so high. We all know there's millions euthanized, healthy animals euthanized every year because there's not enough homes. I do believe not all pet breeders are bad. Some pet stores may get some dogs and cats from reputable breeders that treat the animals well. Some. However, it's tough to control that. Not to mention, even if the breeders are reputable, I do believe that a law should be passed that no breeding is allowed until we get our numbers under control. That's a whole other issue, but this would definitely help, at least for the time being. We need to control the breeding in the puppy mills, at least for now, until we get our numbers under control. It's just extremely irresponsible. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeff Fawcett. I am the owner of Petland store, which is on West Charleston in the Boca Park Shopping Center. I purchased this store in July of this year. The store has been there for 15 years. It's served the community here well and has a very good reputation. It's got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and it gets outstanding reviews online. I purchased Petland because it fulfilled a lifelong dream to have a family business, to work with my son and other family members, and to also run a responsible business in the animal industry. The proposed bill that's before you, that's currently drafted, would cause irreparable harm to our business. It would close the store. That is because 70% of our sales is derived from pet sales. I have 26 employees. Many of them are here today to show their representation and their strength. They would all lose their job. The idea that you can run a business on selling rescue animals is just a fallacy. If it's a good deal, why aren't the public running over there today to get their pets at virtually no cost? And those dogs come in the rescue. They come with problems, behavioral problems, and medical problems. And they're largely, if you go through the pages of available pets, many of them are pit bulls and chihuahuas and Rottweilers. Now, we understand why those end up in rescue. A family looking for a family dog is not looking for those kind of pets. They're going to pet stores to find puppies that represent what their lifelong dream of having a small pet is. Let me share with you a few facts about our store. We do not buy from puppy mills. We buy from breeders that are USDA licensed. People have said today, you've heard them say that the USDA is not doing a good job. Well, it's the same agency, same governmental agency that you go to the store and buy USDA certified meat every day, or chicken. USDA is not perfect like any government agency, but they're doing a good job. I've personally met with the director of the USDA Dr. Gibson, and he assures me that they are doing a job and it gets better every year. So we do not support puppy mills, and we have no desire to do so. I take this very seriously. I'm an animal lover. I don't want to buy a pet from an inhumane environment. I always had my doubts before I got into this business about puppy mills. To make sure that I don't get involved, I travel out to these breeders. I meet with them personally to know where they come from. I would challenge any of the people today commenting about puppy mills whether they personally visited a USDA licensed breeder in their life. They're reading about it, but they're not visiting those like I have. And I can show you the pictures to prove it. On those visits, I found hard-working professionals that are involved in the trade, dedicated to caring for their dogs and the puppies that come from those breeders. I'm not saying there aren't puppy mills. There is certainly that, and that's what the USDA's job is, to go out and fight that situation. And they've made a lot of progress in the last decade. A lot of what you're hearing today is from the past. It's changed radically with the Animal Welfare Act and the USDA getting involved as a result of it. The customers that visited our store are looking for high-quality dogs. They're looking for purebreds often, and that's what we sell. Not only does the USDA inspect the breeders that we visit, but the AKC, the American Kennel Club, inspects these, as well as Petland. So it's a three-point process to make sure that we are buying from good breeders. Our store provides magical moments. In that store, when a family brings a child in and meets that puppy for the first time, that's a magical moment. I would challenge you that that magical moment isn't going to happen at the rescue in front of a pit bull. We understand and endorse animal rescue. It has a place in this world, but so does pet stores. And responsible pet stores that are buying from licensed breeders have a place for the consumer's choice. We support rescue facilities in this city. We donate to them. We have a permanent donation at our counters. We take in money from the public to pass on to these. We're passing on hundreds of pounds of food to the rescues in the city every month. And we run an adoptive pet program in our store. Twofold. If a rescue can provide a pet that can be in our kennels, we sponsor that in our kennels. Two, we have a program with all of our customers. Any customer that wants to dump their pet, leave it behind, they're moving or whatever it may be, or they have an apartment that won't allow them to have it anymore, we take that back and we find them a home. And usually we find that pet a home within 2 hours. Those are charitable acts. They do not form a viable business. You cannot make a business out of selling rescue animals, I promise you. Our store is licensed by the City of Las Vegas. We hold a professional animal handler's license. We've been inspected regularly, and continually we have never failed an inspection. We run a quality kennel. Rescues, residential breeders, internet sellers, newspaper sellers, they're not licensed and they're not regulated and they're not inspected. Pet stores are regulated for puppies in Las Vegas. Removing pet stores will deregulate puppy sales in this city. If we're gone, people that want puppies will go on the internet, they'll go on Craigslist, they'll go through the newspaper and buy an unregulated puppy. If you close our family business, families that desire puppies will have no other choice but to find puppies over the internet. And that's a fact. I understand the emotion of rescues. I do, and I respect it. And our family, greater families had rescued animals. I've had a rescued animal in my home. I understand that principle. But that's taking away consumers' choice if they're not allowed to choose a new puppy versus a rescue. I would recommend that the council consider a couple of amendments to the existing bill, and I will get you this in writing. You could amend the current bill to restrict pet stores like ours to buying from only the highest caliber USDA breeders. In other words, a pet store in the city of Las Vegas could only buy from a USDA certified breed. Other jurisdictions in the United States, many of them have approved legislation with this in mind. If you like this idea, then I can present you with a model legislation, what other communities and what other counties have passed. Even states have passed that. And in that regard, both parties win, and the consumer still wins. The other thing that you might consider in this bill is you could implement a city kennel licensing program with routine inspections for all kennels in the city, including pet stores, rescues, shelters, large residential breeders, not a hobby breeder, but any large residential breeder. If every city and every county in the United States would clean up the kennels in their own jurisdiction, there would be no puppy mills.
You said that the city kennel licensing.
Expand your city kennel inspection to include not only pet stores, which we are now, rescues, shelters, and large residential breeders. I've been into some of the rescues and foster homes in this community delivering pet food, and I was quite surprised at the conditions. In closing, I would strongly urge the council to consider that you amend the bill, include a high regulated environment where pet stores only buy from USDA licensed breeders, and still leave the option for rescue to be promoted from the stores. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. We do have a question from Councilman Anthony.
Okay, so I have 2 rescue dogs. I got them from different families that didn't want them anymore. And a lot of people will get their dogs back. They'll get them from a particular family that wants to give them up. Other people that want a dog, they'll go to the Animal Foundation and they'll get a dog from there. But I don't know, some people don't feel comfortable doing that. They don't know what the Animal Foundation is, or they don't know where other rescue places are to get a dog. So a lot of people find it convenient. They see Petland in a big shopping center. You mentioned that it's not profitable to sell rescue dogs. I don't understand that, because people that go in to buy a dog in a store, I don't think they're asking where it really came from. They just want a dog that is fun and they want to play with it. So why not partner up with the Animal Foundation and take their dogs and sell them and not get them euthanized? You can mark it up. I mean, you can charge an extra $100 for a dog, and if somebody doesn't mind paying that, they'll pay the extra $100, and they're getting a dog that's lovable, and it's a puppy, and they can play with it. And I don't think they. I mean, to me, I don't think it's going to bother that they came from the Animal Foundation, because there's plenty of dogs that are coming from the Animal Foundation that are great dogs. So passing this ordinance, I don't see that how it puts you out of business, because you can get the dogs that we're killing anyway and sell them to people, and you're still in business. So can you just explain how that works? Because it's still a dog, whether you get it from the foundation or you get it from these puppy mills. It's still a dog that can be great for a family. So why can't you sell those dogs?
Okay, well, let's just step through it. There's several reasons. One, we are a pet store designed around selling puppies. So my kennels are puppy size, not full adult dog size. So I can't just bring in a large breed. Now, there's not an ample amount of small breeds available in rescue. I'm sorry. I've been asking for them, and you're not delivering them. So,
okay. So hold on 1 second, because we have to basically filter through all of the emotion in order to get to the facts. So I'll give everyone an opportunity to speak. Should you choose? Thank you.
They've mentioned that Petco and PetSmart are prepared to do this as a business model. They're a totally different store in the fact that they're really dog merchandise and nutrition. That's their focus. Our focus is pet sales. We have 70% of our sales coming through pet sales. And to sell a dog at $100, that wouldn't even cover my cost of taking the dog in and feeding it for weeks and giving it the medical care. So I have to charge a higher margin to cover. And maybe to understand my program, I sell a puppy, but I do two things. I give it a congenital warranty that anything goes wrong with the puppy, for 1 year they can bring it back and get a replacement. I also have a lifetime warranty on the puppy, that if the puppy dies in the possession of that family, as long as they're still trading with our store, we'll replace the puppy over a lifetime. I can't give that program to a rescue dog. So first, I haven't got the kennels to occupy those adult dogs. And two, I don't have the margin in $100 to cover medical care, feeding, and vet care that I have in the store. So I can handle 1 or 2 of those at a time, but I can't handle, I've got 60 puppies in the store at a time. I can't handle 60 adult dogs.
I don't know, there's so many dogs that we're euthanizing, I just cannot believe that you can't run a store
Well, considering
with rescue dogs, even if they're not only just puppies, but if they're a little bit older. I mean, I'm not talking about 10-year-old dogs, but even, people are gonna wanna come in and buy a 1-year-old dog, that's not gonna really bother anybody, so I just don't.
Well,
I'm not in your business, but it just seems to me that the Animal Foundation can give you plenty of dogs to sell, and you can still make a profit on those dogs. I believe you can do that.
Well, again, I'd have to completely revamp the store to accommodate it.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Well, that's not $10,000, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that.
Okay, thank you. I'm good.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Coffin.
I was going to say, a lot of it has to do with convenience. You're up in the higher income area of town there at Boca Park, and that's where you choose to do business. The shelter is in my district, which is medium to lower income, and way down in Mojave. It's a long way from 80% of the valley. So I can see where people want to do that at your store because of convenience. I don't see Petland out on the east side of town. But I do have a couple of questions. Well, first of all, I don't want to throw everything out here. I mean, we're open to suggestions on how to keep things going. I don't want the answer at this moment, but I am curious if you sell pure breed. Just make a note to answer that, because I don't know where else a person would get a pure breed unless they've got a guarantee down the line from somebody reputable. I don't know how you do that, but somebody's got to provide documentation. And of course, I know there are clubs and societies that do guarantee each other that kind of thing, but I don't want to necessarily prevent any stores like PetSmart or anybody else from selling a purebred that can be demonstrated that it is such, because we can't guarantee out of our shelters or the pet savers. We can't. You have to trust us. But I want to ask you about your warranty on congenital illnesses, defects that crop up or that show after a while. You take them back, and sick animals, you take them back. What do you do with those?
Find another home for them, and they don't go into rescue. Find another home. We have a database of every breed that's been sold in the store. It's not unusual that we would call a family and say, "How would you like another puppy?" And they say, "Absolutely yes." So we make placements, but a couple of things happen.
You make placements
of pets that come back.
Congenitally ill, congenitally deformed.
Yeah, but let me just interject this, is that most of the time when the puppy shows a congenital defect that requires surgery, that it's got hip dysplasia or some luxating patellas, and that's the biggest problem that occurs in that first year. And we pay for the surgery for that. That's part of our service. The customer doesn't have to pay for that, we pay for that. So that customer's already bonded with the puppy, and now it has a congenital defect. So very few of them come back. The other thing we do is that we have a lifetime warranty. So if they keep their relationship with the store, They may have that puppy for 15 years. That puppy passes away for whatever reason. We'll replace that puppy in 15 years. That's a big part of our service. We microchip every dog, and we have a spay-neuter program with every dog that goes out. So we don't want to contribute to a rescue. Our vet is telling us, which is a very large vet on the west side, that as these animals are abandoned, they find them and they come through the rescue centers and come to his veterinarian hospital, they're not microchipped. In other words, they're not coming from the pet store. They're not coming from our pet store, because that microchip would point it right back to us. We're not getting that finger pointed back to us. Is that the source of the dog on the street?
Is that the vet store that's in the same shopping center?
No, he's down on West Charleston Animal Hospital. That's Dr. Inson's.
Okay. Jeff, I don't know. I probably have other questions as we go along. I'm always wary of the law of unintended consequences past the sweeping measure, so I'm mindful of your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to share, sir?
Well, I just, again, strongly urge that you look at the amendment. I will send you the information on that. I think you'll see that other communities have the same concerns you do, same concerns that the rescue and Humane Society does, and this has been a good solution for many, many jurisdictions. I think you'll find that helpful in your deliberation.
You'll be emailing that?
Yes, I'll email it to all three of you.
Okay, make sure that you also take down the clerk's email, if you will.
Okay, I'll get that from you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next two. And did you say your last name was Fawcett?
Fawcett, F-A-U-S-E-T-T.
S-E-T-T.
Yes.
Thank you. And if there's anyone else that have anything to pass to any of us, please pass it to the clerk.
Yes, please.
Her first?
Yes, just pass it to her. She'll get it to us. Thank you.
Liability. Thank you.
Just to keep you from walking over those floors. I don't want you to
Yeah,
don't try to sue the city.
I'd never do that.
So just know we only have a $50,000 bond. Thank you, sir. And you two are separate?
Only different people. Or different people.
No, I'm saying you're not. Well, I
We're both
just say
opposed to
you're
the,
different people. Well, but I'm saying, are you? Do you know each other?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because I'm receiving two separate documents, so I'm just trying to figure out who's who.
Mine is the one with lots of words. His has a lot of pictures.
Okay, great.
Sorry about that.
So we'll go with the lots of words first and your name, sir.
You'll never be wrong if you underestimate our intelligence.
Yes, sir.
My name is Brian Winslow. I'm Director of Animal Welfare Education with Petland.
Say the first name.
Brian with an I.
Brian
With an I. Winslow.
Winslow. Thank you, Brian.
And as Director of Animal Welfare, I've spent the last 8 years crisscrossing the United States visiting breeders, but I've also spent a lot of time with the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, and I want to set the record straight on some misinformation that is often spoken about the USDA. First of all, the USDA obviously is a very large governmental agency, but there's a portion of the USDA that inspects licensed inspected breeders, and that is called Animal Care. And they are they're highly specialized. They don't inspect farm animals, crops, wild animals. They only inspect captive, kept mammals, and this is their definition, not used for food or fiber. So meaning captively bred pets, basically. Their national administrator, their regional directors, and all the area supervisors are all veterinarians. There are approximately 120 inspectors geographically located under these veterinarians to inspect between 1,700 and 1,800 licensed breeders. Now, these inspectors do unannounced inspections that are conducted at least once a year. Animal care inspections are public information. They're all online, and the inspection reports are maintained online for a period of 3 years. Activists would say that are trained to insist that the Animal Welfare Act, that's the act that these inspectors implement, is very minimal standards. Well,
every standard by definition is minimum. As soon as you write a standard, whether it's at the local level, the state level, or the federal level, it's minimum. There is no standard that said this is the maximum that you can do. Since then, the Humane Society of the United States have kind of coined a new term, and they say that the Animal Welfare Act is now survival standards. What I've shared with you is 3 documents that kind of explain the Animal Welfare Act and what inspectors do, because the full text is what's called the Blue Book, and no one actually reads this. I've read it, I understand it pretty well. This is the standards that licensed breeders have to live under. But the first one is just a summary of the Animal Welfare Act. The second document that I gave you is an overview of the unannounced compliance inspections. Inspections cover housing, ventilation, lighting, interior surfaces, primary enclosures, sanitation, pest control, feeding and watering, outdoor shelter, compatibility, record keeping, adequate veterinarian care, handling, and transportation. And then the last document that I gave you from the Animal Welfare Act is a chart of direct and not direct non-compliant items. The breeder gets a write-up, they call it an NCI, a non-compliant item. This chart is extensive in the type and severity of write-ups, all the way down to toenails. A toenail can be either a minor write-up or a major write-up based on a USDA inspection. Activists will insist that licensed breeders provide little to no veterinarian care. The facts prove otherwise. All breeders are required to have a consulting veterinarian to set the standard for all daily husbandry and medical care. The veterinarian must write with the breeder what's called a PVC, a program of veterinarian care. A puppy can only be sold to a pet store if it is accompanied by a veterinarian-signed health certificate issued by the state of origin. So a puppy cannot come to Petland or any other pet store that is operating properly without a accompanying health certificate. And then that chart of non-compliant items illustrates the mandate for veterinary care. There's a whole host of write-ups that a breeder could be held accountable to if they don't follow veterinary care. HSUS will oftentimes talk about a report that the Inspector General of the USDA did on animal care. It was just mentioned earlier today. A couple of things that is left out, that this report was written 5.5 years ago, and the actual title was Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, Animal Care